Welcome back, everyone, to the Bank Customer Experience Summit podcast, the official podcast of the Bank Customer Experience Summit. My name is Bradley Cooper. I'm the content director of the Bank Customer Experience Summit. And today I'm joined by Joe Myers, who is the EVP of Global Banking for Diebold Nixdorf. And we're talking today really about self-service banking and where ATMs and all those various elements fit within the greater sphere of self-service banking. So great to have you on, Joe.
Yeah, great to be here, Brad. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
Excellent. Thank you. So I just wanted to start with a real simple question. So cash recycling is obviously a big issue, but it's been slow rolling out. So how would you say banks are progressing when it comes to integrating cash recycling in the U.S. specifically? But if you want to talk a little bit more globally, you can as well.
Yeah. So Brad, you make the point that it's been slow rolling out, but in fact, across our footprint, we've got banks that have been recycling with us for more than 15 years in some of our European territories. And to your point, it's really starting to become more the norm in the US. So the majors, or what I call the tier ones in the US, are certainly in the advanced stages of rolling out some of our bigger customers. Sure. And there's the use case or the business case for these banks is very obvious. The savings that they can achieve by rolling out recycling are significant. Now, if you think about their total cost of ownership or total cost of managing cash, they can see savings of upwards of 20% across the fleet by rolling out recycling. Another key part is the advent of having to get to the ATM to replenish it with cash. Significant reduction is seen there. One of the big advantages of recycling, up to 75% of those replenishment visits can be wiped out, and there's obvious benefit in delivery or in that. And in my mind, this really achieves or helps achieve a bank's strategic priorities. So, number one, it's very helpful from a achievement of their efficiency ratio. Clearly, I've highlighted the reduction of cost that is associated with it. Importantly, from an environmental perspective, it is a significant driver. Reduction of carbon footprint is a major play here, just by the very fact that there's less need for vehicles on the road is one of the very basic reductions in carbon. And probably as importantly or more importantly than any of these is customer experience, right?
Exactly.
So ensuring availability of the tools and the availability of functionality when a customer wants it. This is a key decision that many of our many consumers are making when selecting a bank, right?
Right.
Availability of the services I want, when I want them, how I want them, is a big part of either decision to leave a bank or decision to stay with a bank or come to a bank. I want the services when I want them as a consumer.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, kind of moving forward to a little bit more ATM features, what do you see as the top ATM features right now in 2024 that banks need to integrate?
Well, I think you touched on it, right? One, recycling is major and happening at pace. But if you think about the other key things that are happening in our environment, security is critical. So
absolutely,
authentication and authentication modules are becoming major. But I like to think of this as a total experience. So think about the consumer journey and think about, I want to start my banking transaction wherever it is that I decide on. It might be on my phone, right? It might be on my laptop, iPad, whatever. It might be in branch. But I want to start it and I want to end it where I choose for that transaction to stop and start. And so the ATM is very well positioned to help in the beginnings or end of any of those journeys. So the integration is occurring with security modules is a big one. As I said, validation around authentication, changes that, NFC is becoming a major one. So how can I start that transaction on my phone, get cash or other services? And then, of course, the marketing modules as well. So, more and more, this is becoming a value add channel where the machine is starting to add value to the process, either through sharing of new journeys or opportunities that might be curated for that consumer specifically, right? So this giving them an offer that is very, very targeted towards that person at that time, and ultimately helping the bank drive more revenue or additional services that otherwise they perhaps couldn't deliver.
Absolutely. So looking more broadly outside of just ATMs, what do you see as some of the other top self-service banking tools? Like we've seen a little bit of like video banking tools or things of that nature. What's your opinion?
Yeah. So I'm always amazed at just how much these machines can do, right? And, our customers are continually pushing us with use cases that they want to try. And ultimately, remember, the advent of these machines is really to remove transactions or interactions out of the branch and put them into self-service mode. So, the length and breadth of the solutions that these machines can deliver is very wide. Start with statement generation, validation of identification, card deployment and issuing, account opening. These are all features that we have out in the wild today, and that are that many of our bank customers are using. And so you mentioned video too. Obviously, the video experience is one in which it becomes far easier to offer 24/7 banking at the place of your choice, right? So you might want to go by app. You might need to get to an ATM or want to use an ATM when the branch is closed. Well, there you go. If you're having a problem, video it really helps in that instance. And there is some comfort in seeing somebody on the other side of the line, just as we're looking at each other right now.
Excellent. And I kind of want to dig in a little deeper into video banking. So video banking has had some mixed results in different markets. Some markets has done very well. Others, customers have been more confused by it. So in your experience, how can banks successfully deliver that video banking experience?
Yeah, so great question. And look, I think fair statement around mixed reviews. This comes down again to customer preference, right? And there are customers that really enjoy the video experience and those that don't. And I think about pre-pandemic and how many of us sat on a video call and felt comfortable talking on video before 2020. The answer is, I can tell you, I very seldom did video calls before then, and now I speak to family around the world on video every time I speak.
Right, everyone's used to it by now.
It's part of how we interact. So again, it comes down to customer preference. It's important that it is available for those that want it when they want to use it. But to the point made, it's not necessarily become the normal, widely used on a day-to-day basis. It's just a convenience tool and again, a way that banks are enabling differentiated journeys for their customers and customer base. Again, it comes down to preference.
Right. So I wanted to kind of lean in a little deeper into security because you were talking about those security modules being integrated more and more often. So obviously security is a big issue with ATMs, but for the customer's safety, how can banks help their customers feel safe and secure when using the ATMs?
Yeah, I mean, this is a major one, right? So I like to think about it as this is all of us that rely on the service on a daily basis versus the bad guys, right? Or the guys that are trying to, and we've got to be really clear that, cooperation from banks with law enforcement is a big part of making sure that they are providing the necessary safety to their customers and consumers, right? But there are some basics, right? So one, know what's going on in and around the area, provide good lighting, ensure that that's done so that, it is in a bright place and the ATM is in a bright place. But then also be observant, right? So if you think about the most predominant attacks that are out there, things like skimming, just be observant of what's going on the machine, right? So, just visually looking at it, making sure there's nothing untoward on there, and being vigilant is required. And then as a consumer, I think being aware of your surrounds is also really, really important. The industry continues to work on mechanisms by which we are looking to reduce things like skimming attacks, changing the way cards are inserted. EMV is a significant carrying updated software, hardware, making sure your patching is up to date to ensure that security and jackpotting can't take place, right? And also just working alongside your manufacturer. I mean, DN is providing updates on a continuous basis to ensure that we're aware of new challenges in the ecosystem, right? And are providing the necessary guidance to minimize attacks that we are seeing. But, as I said, it is us against them. And it takes us all, it's going to take us all being highly vigilant to minimize fraud and minimize security risk that occurs on these in the ATM channel.
Absolutely. And I want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about customer experience. So how can banks really deliver that excellent customer experience with these self-service tools that we've been discussing, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'll come back to a statement I made earlier. This is a story around preference, right? Preference and choice. So, we all feel comfortable with starting journeys at different places. Let's take a basic cash withdrawal transaction, right? You might feel very comfortable rolling up to a machine, entering a card, or tap with your phone and getting cash out. But then there might be other more technical or solutions that take more horsepower. Take a loan, right? So I might not be thinking about a loan, and I have an offer offered to me as part of the that journey when I'm drawing cash, right? Because the information that the bank has on me has selected me and said you should be. You pre-selected to take advantage of a specific type of loan, right? And then it might link me through to a video experience. It might suggest I talk to someone in a branch. It might do something else, but ultimately driving additional revenue. So again, I think about customer experience as a road with multiple forks on it. We riding along the road and we want to exit and enter at various parts. We need to give our consumers as many of those entry points and exit points as possible and make sure that they all work together, right? You don't want to have a dead end at any one of those on or off ramps that exist, and make sure that we can continue through to completion of the journey so that we do get a satisfied customer at the end of the road.
Right. And that leads right into what I wanted to talk about lastly, which was how do these self-service tools fit into that broader omni-channel banking experience that we were just talking about?
So again, right. So think about what we started the conversation off with, right? There's a notion of efficiency, and you think about what's happening in banking more broadly across the world. There's been a significant move as banks have looked to improve their efficiency ratio to reduce the number of branches that are out in the ecosystem. That's driven through expensive real estate. It's driven through the personnel required to occupy and manage those branches. However, there is still a need to offer services to people in those areas where branches
absolutely
are closed, right? They are still reliant on those banking services that existed before. So, the ATM and the solutions that are within the ATM are a great leave-behind strategy and allow for those services to continue to be offered and those transactions to be completed. So there's no one left behind. And that's ultimately what banks are looking to deliver. What Diebold Nixdorf is making available to our banks and supporting them in their journey as they continue to drive for efficiency, but also continue to create exceptional customer experiences so that they can continue to expand their business by delivering the solutions that those customers are used to. And again, we come back to this, wherever they want to receive them and in the manner that they want to receive. So that's pretty much it.
Yes, thank you so much, Joe. That's a lot of really great information just about the ATM ecosystem and how they all fit within the bigger banking and customer experience. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off today?
Yeah, Brad, there is. I mean, I think we've spoken a lot about the different solutions. We've spoken about the journeys that we are creating and working with our banks to create. I don't think anything is beyond the realms of possibility. We are super eager to continue collaborating with banks across the entire ecosystem to try and find ways to improve those customer experiences, to support them in minimization of their expenses, and then allow them to continue to expand their business. That's through our software, through our hardware, and through the services we offer. So we are here to support them, and we're excited to do so through the range of services we offer.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Joe. Really appreciate having you on.
Great to see you, Brad, and look forward to doing this again soon.
Yes, and I'd like to remind all our listeners that the Bank Customer Experience Summit is coming up from September 9th through the 11th. It'll be held in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it'll be co-held with the Interactive Customer Experience Summit, and one badge gains you entry to both events. Thank you so much for joining us today. Take care.